Yo, what's the word, boys? Welcome back. We have a problem. We have a big problem on our hands. So, ESPN released their top 10 men's MMA fighters of the 21st century, and this list makes me want to puke. It is bad, it is disgusting, it is gross. So, I thought, why not? We take a look at it. So, let's jump right into it. Subscribe, like, do all that. And let me know in the comments if Belal Muhammad looks like Ice Spice. Number 1, we have Jon Jones. Okay, I agree. I think they're 1-for-1 so far. Jon Jones is clearly the undisputed GOAT. Key accomplishments: UFC light heavyweight champion, youngest fighter to win a UFC championship, most wins in UFC light heavyweight history, most wins in UFC title fights being 15, tied for most successful title defenses in UFC history with 11. He's tied with Demetrius Johnson, I believe. Where were we? Longest unbeaten streak in UFC history, 19, and then he's a UFC Hall of Famer. Undisputed GOAT. I don't really need to go into this much longer. You could argue GSP if you want, but I'm clearly going to have Jon Jones. So ESPN are 1-for-1. ESPN are 1-for-1 so far, and at the bottom, they say Jon Jones's complicated legacy. I'd agree. I definitely agree. Next up, George St-Pierre at number 2. I agree. I think ESPN are 2-for-2 so far. That will not hold up. I will tell you that now. That will not hold up. Key accomplishments: UFC Hall of Famer, UFC welterweight and middleweight champion, 9 UFC welterweight title defenses. Clearly the second best fighter of all time. You could argue him being number 1, and at the worst, he should be number 3 on everybody's list. What do you guys think he has a better argument for? Number 1 or number 3? Put it in the comments. If I had to say, I'd go number 1, because he has that, that 2-division legacy, because he's won belts in 2 different divisions like Jon Jones. So I believe he has a better argument for number 1 instead of number 3, but it's all right. 2-for-2 so far. GSP at number 2. Next up, Anderson Silva at number 3. Key accomplishments: UFC middleweight champion, UFC record holder for the most consecutive wins at 16, and he's a UFC Hall of Famer. Now, guys, I love Anderson Silva. I really do. One of the greatest of all time. He is one of the greatest of all time. However, I cannot have him this high on the list when his best wins are over Rich Franklin, Forrest Griffin, and Chael Sonnen. Also Vitor Belfort. You can see it right there. But those are his best wins. And when those are your best wins, I cannot put you as the 3rd greatest UFC fighter of all time. Chael's great and all. Vitor's great and all, but come on, guys. Forrest Griffin, Rich Frank, these guys are just not the elite of the elite in the UFC. Would I have any of those guys inside my top 30? I'm not sure. Maybe Vitor Belfort is inside my top 30, but besides that, man, I'm not too sure. Yeah, he's a great striker. Yeah, he went on, a crazy, crazy run, but I'll stand by it that the names on the resume and how skilled your opponents are is much more valuable than it being a title fight. For example, I love this example. I really do. In 2024, what do you think is a better win? A win over Shavkat Rakhmonov, or say you beat Colby Covington in a title fight? What do you think's better in 2024? It's Shavkat Rakhmonov. So it being a title fight doesn't necessarily make it so fucking amazing. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to put that out there. And that's why, for example, I have a guy like Max Holloway so high on my all-time list because, yeah, he didn't go on the craziest title win streak, whatever you want to say. But he does have just crazy names on his resume. It's literally win after win after win for Max Holloway. And he just has a crazy resume. So that's why I have him so high on my list, because I personally value the names on the resume and how good your opponents are much more than it being a title win, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So for Anderson Silva, I had him around my 10 range. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm going to make my top 20 list on this channel pretty soon. So you'll just have to wait for that. Next up, Demetrius Johnson. Now, I don't know how Demetrius Johnson is below Anderson Silva on this list because this is a top 10 MMA list. So that is including his one championship run. And as you can see right there, key accomplishments. Current UFC, or holy shit, current UFC. No, that would be sick though. Key accomplishments. Current one championship flyweight champion. Inaugural UFC flyweight champion. Most consecutive title defenses in UFC history with 11. Most wins in UFC flyweight title fights, 12. And then most submissions in UFC title fights with 5. I just believe he's better almost everywhere than Anderson Silva. I believe he's more skilled than Anderson Silva. I believe his resume is better than Anderson Silva. Yeah, he didn't go on a crazy... Well, he did go on a crazy win streak, but not as crazy as Anderson Silva. But it's pretty much the same at that point because he's beaten better guys. I don't think he lost to Henry Cejudo in that rematch. That might be a hot take, but I don't think he ever lost his UFC title, and it's crazy. And then you got to look at what he's doing in one championship. I just think he's better everywhere than Anderson Silva. I think he's more skilled. I think he has better names on his resume, and he's still doing it. The longevity's there, so I don't think Demetrius Johnson should be that hot. Or, holy shit, I don't think it's literally. I just woke up 5 minutes ago because last night this fucking thing didn't want to record, so I'm just doing it again. I don't think Anderson Silva should be above Demetrius Johnson. Simple. Next up, Khabib Nurmagomedov at number 5. Now, I don't hate it, but I would have this placement a little bit lower. Key accomplishments. UFC lightweight champion with the longest reign in the division's history, and tied for most title defenses with 3. Tied for most submission wins in title fights, any division, with 3. Wait. Hold the phone. Tied for most submission wins in title fights, any division. Read this, guys. Am I misjudging this? Am I misreading this? Tied for most submission wins in title fights. Am I missing something? Because Demetrius Johnson has more submissions than Khabib. Okay, maybe they fucked up there. Unless I'm just misreading it. I'm not sure. But most takedowns in a UFC fight with 21, and then he's a UFC Hall of Famer. Now, I like the Khabib placement, but I wouldn't have him this high because it's just, I don't know, man. It's just the title reign's too short. The title reign is too short. Now, I know I'm kind of going back and forth saying, oh, Anderson Silva didn't beat the greatest people, and his title run was crazy long, but Khabib's dominance and skill set is what puts him so high because prime for prime, he is by far the most dominant UFC fighter of all time. And I personally take into account dominance a lot. And, of course, skill set is there. But stylistically, the guys he beat, he should be beating 20 times out of 20. Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier. Now, if he had a short title run, but he had wins over Charles Oliveira and Alexander Volkanovski, like another lightweight does, maybe I'd have him this high, but the names just aren't there for me. The names are simply not there for me. So that's why Khabib would be a little bit lower for me, but that's okay. I don't hate on the placement. Next up, this is where it starts to get a little dicey, guys. A little dicey. Fedor Emelianenko at number 6. I just wouldn't have him that high, man. I can't have him inside my top, 10 to 12 range. I really can't. Key accomplishments, Pride heavyweight champion, and went unbeaten in 28 consecutive fights. He never even fought in the UFC, guys. He never even fought in the UFC. Now, I know for his time, ultra, super dominant, but when his best wins are against Mark Coleman and Kevin Randleman, Mirko Cro Cop, Mark Hunt, guys, I can't put him that high. What do you think Tom Aspinall would be doing to Kevin Randleman? Answer me that. What would Tom Aspinall be doing to Kevin Randleman? And that's just why I can't have him that high, man. Because, Tom Aspinall would fucking run through Fedor, guys. Let's not beat around the bush. He'd destroy Fedor. He'd absolutely dog walk Fedor. With the utmost respect to Fedor, but guys, times have changed. The fighters of today are the best fighters in the world. Why did my screen just glitch? I don't fuck with that. I don't appreciate that. So I just can't have Fedor that high, even though he has a crazy record. Yeah. But this, at least I can respect the Fedor pick. I can't respect this. What are we doing, man? What are we doing? Randy Couture. Key accomplishments. 3-time UFC heavyweight champion. 2-time UFC light heavyweight champion. First multi-division champion in UFC history. Most championship reigns in UFC history with 6. That's a feat in and of itself, man. That's crazy. Oldest fighter to be UFC champion, 45 years old. Oldest fighter to win a UFC bout, being 47 years old, excuse me. And he's a UFC Hall of Famer. Guys. What would Tom Aspinall do to Randy Couture? What would he do to Randy Couture, guys? His best wins are over Tito and Chuck. Come on. They had their own fucking ring around the rosy, those 3. Chuck Liddell, Tito, and Randy Couture. Guys, take your title wins. I don't care. Take your fucking 3-time UFC heavyweight champion, 2-time UFC light heavyweight champion. Take all your fucking title reigns. And no disrespect to Randy Couture, but he's not like, dude, there's probably a zillion fucking fighters that are more skilled than Randy Couture that are fighting in the UFC right now. Like, honest to God, dude. Like, what would Tom Aspinall do? Answer me that. Riddle me that. Tom Aspinall's fucking destroying Chuck Liddell. Tom Aspinall's running through Tito Ortiz. Tom Aspinall's fucking destroying. Tom Aspinall would beat all of them in the same night, and the combined fight time wouldn't be over 3 minutes. With all due respect, he cannot be this high. He simply cannot be that high. The wins are not there. The fighters of today are so much better than the fighters of the past. And it gets worse. Chuck Liddell. What would Tom Aspinall do to Chuck Liddell? Best wins are what? Over Tito Ortiz and fucking Randy? Come on, guys. I know he was great and all, and we all love the Iceman. Key accomplishments: UFC light heavyweight champion, most knockouts. And oh yeah, I said Tom Aspinall. I didn't mean Tom Aspinall because obviously he only fought at lightweight. But obviously these guys are not like. How did Randy Couture fight at heavyweight? No. But Chuck Liddell, like Alex Pereira's fucking knocking this dude out. So he can't be this high. He simply cannot be this high. The skill set isn't there. The wins aren't there. Yeah. And his resume is not even fucking crazy. He didn't even go on a long title reign. Like, what are we doing? We all love Chuck Liddell, sure, but like he's not this high. BJ Penn, what are we doing? UFC lightweight and welterweight champion, second UFC fighter to ever win titles in multiple divisions. What is Islam Makhachev doing to BJ Penn? What is Kamaru Usman doing to BJ Penn? I'll just use that fucking that logic because it's the truth, man. These guys are just not stacking up to the fighters of today. You could take your lightweight and welterweight championships, you could take them. But when you're comparing them to the fighters of today, they don't stack up. And their wins aren't there either. So I just can't put them this high. Simple. And then at number 10, and I'll get to the snubs, guys. You're probably wondering where the fuck a few fighters are. We're going to get to them. Number 10, Kamaru Usman. I love this pick. He is number 10 on my all-time list. This is a valid take. UFC welterweight champion, the Ultimate Fighter 24 tournament winner, most consecutive wins in UFC welterweight history, 15, and then first Nigerian-born UFC champion. I love this pick. I think Kamaru Usman, skill set-wise, is so underrated. Wrestling so dominant. His striking is underrated. Striking defense is fucking elite. I love Kamaru Usman. And I believe he has one of the most underrated title wins, and that's, of course, against Tyron Woodley. You could argue it's the greatest title performance ever. He absolutely beat the brakes off of Tyron Woodley. Such an underrated performance. So I love Kamaru Usman at number 10. He had that aura about him. He had that mystique that he was never going to lose. It really felt like that. And 19 times out of 20, he is still the UFC welterweight champion because that head kick does not happen. But this is where it gets bad. On this list, we saw the likes of Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, and BJ Penn. We did not see the likes of Daniel Cormier, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, and Alexander Volkanovski. We did not see Alexander Volkanovski on this top 10 list. What are we doing? ESPN, you are the streaming service of the UFC, and you don't have Alexander Volkanovski. You don't have Daniel Cormier. You don't have Jose Aldo. Hot take, guys. I think fucking Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski are inside my top 5. Yeah, go over to my TikTok, watch my top 20 list. Both of them are inside my top 5. Where's Alexander Volkanovski? You're telling me Chuck Liddell is above Alexander Volkanovski? You're out of your damn fucking mind. ESPN, you are the streaming service of the UFC. You don't have the top 3 featherweights in UFC history on this fucking list. You don't have Volkanovski. You don't have Holloway. You don't have Jose Aldo. Volkanovski is a top 4 fighter of all time. Max Holloway is inside my top 5. Hot take, I don't care. What is this, man? What Anderson Silva at 3, move him down with all due respect. With all due respect. Fedor at 6, above Volkanovski. Randy Couture at 7, above Volkanovski. Chuck Liddell at 8, above Volkanovski. BJ Penn at 9, above Volkanovski. What are we doing, man? It's disrespectful to the greatest featherweight of all time, and I do believe he has the greatest accomplishment in UFC history, and that is beating Max Holloway not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 separate occasions he beat up Max Holloway. And he's not on this top 10 list? Let's compare him to Chuck Liddell. He's a zillion times more skilled than Chuck Liddell in every fucking facet of mixed martial arts. He has a better resume than Chuck Liddell. A zillion times better. He has a more dominant title run. I don't even know what else to say. He's better in everything than these guys. Jose Aldo, how are you? Like, if you're having guys like Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell and BJ Penn, where is Jose Aldo? Where is Jose Aldo? Because he was fighting not in the exact same time, but a similar time to these guys. Like, their primes don't necessarily match up, but you can make the argument. Like, Jose Aldo was fucking shit up in the WEC. Like he's not necessarily a modern fighter, even though he's fighting right now. So why didn't you put him on the list? You got guys like Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture. So where is Jose Aldo? It's insane. It's insane that the Volkanovski one is so bad. The Volkanovski one is so bad. I think I'm done here. This is a god-awful list. ESPN, you're the streaming service of the UFC, and I know they're trying to do it for the clicks. They know this isn't the correct list. They know, like, I wouldn't be making this video if they had the perfect list. I wouldn't be making this video if they had Jon Jones, GSP, Demetrius Johnson, Volkanovski, Max Holloway was high up there. I wouldn't be making this video, but here I am. I think I'm done. I'm a little bit sick. I need some water. Peace out, boys.